Henry II. He was ruling from 1154 until 1189 in England and more. Also was he the Duke of Normandy and the Duke of Aquitaine. With the Angevin Empire as his ruling territory, he was ruling England and huge parts of France up to the Pyrenees in northern Spain. How did it all begin? There was Henry I, the son of William the Conqueror, and he had one legitimate son who drowned while coming back from Normandy over the English Channel when the boat on which he was sunk. Now Henry I tried to get his daughter Matilda onto the throne, but when Henry I died, his nephew Stephen was also about to become the king. He was also supported by many people, and now there were 19 long winters of civil war between Matilda, his daughter, granddaughter of William the Conqueror, and his Henry I's nephew Stephen, also a grandson of William the Conqueror. Matilda, after some time, she had at some time also the upper hand. She imprisons even Stephen at some time. Matilda gave up the struggle and went to France, and she has a son, Henry Plantagenet, Henry II. Plantagenet, the father of Henry II, has at some time picked up a flower with his head and then worn a flower as a badge. And in French that means Plantagenista, and therefore the name Plantagenet. Okay, and now this Henry Plantagenet comes over to England and fights against Stephen, and then they make an agreement that on the death of Stephen, Henry Plantagenet becomes the new king of England. That happens then 2 years later, and Henry II is ruling in this big Angevin Empire. And that is not so easy because such a big empire, and he has some problems with the barons. That isn't working all so well. And he is making Thomas Becket, who is a priest, first his chancellor, and then the Archbishop of Canterbury. He then makes in 1164, so the King Henry II, in 1164 the Constitution of Clarendon, and that limits the church power. That brings him into violent quarrel with Thomas Becket, who when apprenticed to the Constitution of Clarendon, what was the name of it, goes into exile, comes back, they're having reconciliation, they quarrel again, and then there's a misunderstanding. Somehow the knights of Henry II understand something like rid of the troubles or something, that they should assassinate him, and they do it when they murder Thomas Becket in the north transept of Canterbury Cathedral in 1170. He's married to Eleanor of Aquitaine. Eleanor of Aquitaine was married to Louis VII, the King of France, but that marriage wasn't working, and she went to England and marries Henry II. And it wasn't also good. Running the book is saying something about that Henry II wasn't so well-tempered or something, and then that Eleanor of Aquitaine plots together with her sons and also his sons to overthrow him, but Henry II notices it and imprisons her in Chateau de something for 15 years for the rest of his life. And now that is that part. He makes in 1166 the Assize of Clarendon, so 2 years after the Constitution of Clarendon, the Assize of Clarendon, and that for the first time makes that there is trial with jury. And he also makes an inquiry in all the processes and court things done since he was on the throne. So let's recheck them all. Okay, and now he then also dies. And now after his death, how it goes a bit on, Eleanor of Aquitaine is also an important figure the whole time. He, Henry II, has his sarcophagus at the Chateau de Chinon in the vicinity of it. The Chateau de Chinon is at the river Vienne, which is a tributary to the Loire, and at the river Loire in France, there's the sarcophagus of Henry II and also of Eleanor of Aquitaine and Richard I, all three next to each other. Now, his sons, how it goes it on. His son is, one of them is Richard I, Richard Lionheart, who spends much of his time crusading in the Middle East, and he's been also captured by Austria and then got brought over to Henry 6 of Germany, and there is been a ransom paid to get him free again. So Richard I is most of the time of his ruling abroad, a lot of time even in captivity. Then Richard I also comes back when there is fighting at some castle in France where he is injured and dies. And John is ruling, the son of Henry II. King John is ruling. And now under King John, the quarrel with the barons goes on, and King John has been forced, partly because of an invasion through the Dauphies of France, I don't know what that means, to sign the Magna Carta. And that makes now a power agreement between what power the king has and what power the barons have. So the quarreling goes on, which was on Henry II. John has to sign the Magna Carta, and when King John is ruling, who dies when unexpected at Newmark, and now his son, Henry III, I think was it, becomes the new king. He is 9 years old when he starts to rule, so William the Marshal and Humbert the Bourbon are ruling as regents at the beginning for him, but when Henry III is ruling. Now, and that is according to the history of the kings and queens of England and Scotland on the page 48 and 49, but several other pages. But the positions and views expressed are the ones of the source and not necessarily aligned with my own or with the ones of the entity spoken of.